Hi, my name is Alvin. I am the designer of the Tokyo60 and I guess now founder of Tokyo Keyboard, based here in Tokyo, Japan. Right now we are filming in beautiful Shibuya, right in the smack center actually. So a lot of people ask me, what do I do? And that's the hardest question to answer. I also run a nonprofit social innovation agency, and sort of some way along that path, I started a coffee company. And we just launched our coffee shop last year, but we're running as an online business. And then somehow along that path, now making keyboards. This is pretty embarrassing. So I actually use the kinesis advantage a lot. I love it. It's just huge, right? And you bust out your desk and you're like, what are you using? Yeah, my Ergo keyboard. Actually think about it, it's not a very good board. It's like the size of a TKL plus. It's super light and plasticky. There's something about that board that's just so fun to use. I'm kind of like able to overlook it. My HHKB Pro 1, which is fantastic. Most of us, except a lot of other boards, are really pretty, but they're just kind of gathering dust in the closet. I mean, it's changed quite a bit, right? I think, you've been to a few of the meetups, you're part of this community too. And it's sort of interesting to see the difference between, I guess, the local community, which is growing, and I think a lot of the more expat sort of stuff that we've been seeing. I think that last meetup, there's the bunch of us with we got our Fails, our M65s, and the really kind of like hype, keyboards, and then you see the sort of the local homegrown creators, and they're coming in with their full Ergo, crazy setups, with the split thumb shifts, and like, it's cool because it's such a big global community, so it's so diverse, and it's crazy that this is even a thing. I remember being on GeekHack, a few years ago, being finding about RMK and just spending way too much money on like Mech Market. It was then I decided, hey man, let's host Tokyo Meetup, and Bechter was like, dude, I'm the host of Tokyo Meetup. I'm like, oh, okay, great, let's co-host this thing, and I guess it's sort of taken off from there. I guess the Tokyo60 is my take on this sort of iconic keyboard that is the happy hacking, right? It's this 60% board that has no arrow keys. That has a sort of funky shape, but is somehow just super charming. And so many people have done their own interpretation of it so far. I was thinking, what's my point of view? I'm hopping around coffee shops quite a bit. I work pretty nomadically. The stuff that really stood out for the original HHKB was just how light it is and how friendly, and you can sort of take it anywhere. It's sort of injection molded plastic. It's like, it's fancy but still kind of really grounded. So how do I capture a lot of those elements that I really like and translate it into, I guess, a slightly modernized design and sort of add my own kind of spin to it? A product can be a good product if it just provides enough emotion for someone. So, for this, instead of coming from a very design standpoint, looking at, hey man, what do people need? What's the best user experience? This whole process has been very much more, I guess, artistic might be the right way to frame it. A very personal approach of, hey, I don't care what people think. What do I think is interesting? And what does that look like? I've kind of fallen in love with this idea of, how do you bring something that is the equivalent of like a sneaker or t-shirt to the keyboard world, where it can be just fancy enough, but you wouldn't care so much about it to like never touch it. Hopefully it sits in that space where it makes you feel special, or that what you have is worth something, but you can still take it out and beat it up, or put stickers on it or whatever, that it can still be very much yours versus, I don't know, something that you just sort of idolize and hold, and that's very important to me, that it's like that these keyboards, they're tools, right? And you should be able to put as much of your own personality into it as you can. So hopefully for me, I can just provide a good base that's kind of fun. I guess the big reason why I didn't want to make a super exclusive thing is because it's such a supportive, inviting, and open community, and that these designs are they didn't come out of the blue, right? They're sort of based, built on the shoulders of people who've built stuff before, from the open PCB design threads to QMK to the plate cutout shapes and sizes. This stuff is a accumulation of a lot of other people's I guess thoughts, work, and sort of just open attitude, right? So I feel the only right way to make the right product for this community is something that is for everyone, that people can get. I guess a lot of it is that I just can't stop making stuff. That's how I add value back to the world, right? That's where I'm at my best. How I can help people the best is to keep making stuff. I guess like creative coders is kind of who I have in mind. So folks who do program, who are maybe engineers, but maybe work on more the sort of creative end of things. Maybe you're a front-end designer, or you're you're working processing, making like installations. So it's for everyone who needs to code, likes to code. Really, something about this happy hacking mentality and style resonates. But at the same time, hopefully looking for something a little more expressive, a little more fun. I guess that's who it is. I think the big thing for me is fun. I guess how can we have this really be something that you can own and make it yours, versus having a very shiny, finished, end game product you never want to touch or take out or scratch. Can this be something that is still important and makes you feel special to own, but you'd feel okay just hacking the crap out of it? Something from a slightly more, I guess, playful point of view. I think for a lot of the initial stuff, things like YouTube have been incredibly useful. There's such a wealth of information on the internet. It's there. I think if you look for it, you can find what you need. I think a lot of it, when you're first diving, is just learning what the right language is and what the right things to ask for. And on the electronics side, I've been very lucky to have very good friends who are more experts on that. Akiba and Jacinta, they're founders of this place called Hacker Farm out in Chiba. So they're fantastic, sort of really open source focused electronics guys. And they've been able to help me figure out, how do you make a PCB? How do you actually make this cost effective and all this sort of stuff? Really, it's been everyone, I guess specifically with the key chatter community, that's been extremely supportive and pointing me the right way, showing me showing me the ropes. I think that's what makes this community so wonderful, is that, not only are we consuming all this stuff, a lot of us make our own keyboards and make our own artists and make our own stuff. So, everyone's very helpful and open to sharing knowledge. And I can't really think of too many other communities like this. I fell off the map in January to learn KiCad. So I guess because of that, I now understand how to design a PCB and how to get all that to work, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's funny because I think if you really wanted to get deep into keyboards or mechanical keyboards, you touch on almost every single discipline. From how do you do 3D CAD to manufacturing to electronics to shipping logistics to Photoshop and marketing and how do you take a good photo of your keyboard? That's actually really hard. All these tools are accessible to free, from PCB design to CAD and just to rendering. It's not hard to put an idea out, So, what the real work is the sort of the finessing, spending enough time with the design so that you actually understand what you made, and making sure that it's at the right quality bar and that you've taken time to like look everything over. We're not trying to rush to get a market to capture market share or anything, right? It's just trying to put something of quality out that hopefully people will like. I guess that's what makes the difference between something that's going to be a one shot versus something that hopefully has a much longer life. How do you get something that is not just copying, I guess, and from there, like, how do you actually make the design producible? And what was really tough for me is just figure out like how much can I cut out and what do I really not need. Being able to discuss with my wife quite a bit around the design, and she's not a keyboard person at all, but because of that, she's been very grounded. Like, hey, you could add all this stuff, an engraving or design or whatever, but like, are you actually adding value to this? Because every time you add something, you're adding extra cost. Is this actually going to make the product better for someone? Versus just, oh man, this is cool. But I don't know if compromise is the right way to frame it. So, a lot of the Tokyo60 has been, how can we take away as much as we can so that what's left is as pure a keyboard as possible. So it's more about, I guess instead of compromise, I'd say the word is editing. Like we only support, ANSI, ANSI layout. We don't do ISO or JS. I mean, that's a funny point, actually, I haven't really considered is, at what point is it compromise versus like, I don't know, like focused design? At this point, well over a year now. It's been a very long and tedious process. I guess I'm happy that it's taken so long to actually present and bring out people that it's, I still have energy, I'm still excited to do this. But yeah, it's been a lot of testing, a lot of screwing up. But I think because of that, it's, finally at the point where I feel it's ready for people to actually receive as a product, not sort of for people to be like beta testers. I've gone through so many prototypes. The first, I would say like 10 or so were just like 3D prints, and because I've never made a tangible product. I guess outside the coffee is very different though. So this is my first time picking up CAD software. Learning how to use it. I had to learn a lot about machining and manufacturing. How does that even work? And a lot of stuff was just really wrong with the first few versions I've made. Yeah, the biggest facepalm, I guess the first one early on was with the accidental asymmetrical bottom row. Next to space where I had a 1.25 U mod and a 1.5 U mod, and showing someone about it, and they're like, man, I dig that you're going for this like asymmetric HHKB layout. I'm like, oh, that wasn't the shit. But I think the other big one was my first round of commission prototypes. There's a few things I either measured wrong or input incorrectly. So I got the first aluminum prototype back, and the USB port was like off by like a millimeter. I'm like, oh my gosh, how is this going to work? And my stab cutout design just didn't fit. So I'm like, oh, here's this beautiful piece. It's finally the right finish. And I put the stabs in, and they kind of, they had to get pushed out because they didn't fit the stab hole. And going through all that process, I start looking at other people's plates and how they cut it out, and you start seeing other people's design decisions, right? Of oh, that's why you did it that way, because it just doesn't really work like this. And it's there's a lot, there's a lot, but so a lot of stuff like that where if you work, I guess largely with digital stuff, you're not so careful, right? You push stuff out and you fix it later. And the big learning, I guess, with a lot of this stuff is, once you make it, it's sort of made, right? You can't push an update to it later. So a lot of it has been just slowing down a bit, making sure all the details are right before jumping too far into getting a product out. And I think that's the big reason why it's taken me about a year, is that I've tried to be very diligent in making sure that everything is manufacturable, that it's designed in such a way that costs can come down, that I'm not being sort of haphazard or half-assed with the design, and that every detail is considered and tested. I think we see a lot of stuff that's just sort of rushed to market. You feel, oh man, I can do this, great, let's sort of manufacture. And I think that's how you get stuff where your switch plate doesn't really work, or the cutouts are kind of the wrong size. This is the first run ever for the Tokyo60, and actually takes a bit of time to set up the whole production line and chain. So not only how's it manufactured, how do we package it, and then how is that then shipped out to everyone. And but every time we add an option, it creates a new SKU, right? So by adding another choice of base, basically you then multiply all your option sets by another option, and it starts getting out of hand pretty quickly. And I talked to Yambo a lot about this, where it's more important that people get exactly what they ordered and what they want, and that whole experience is done right, versus hey man, let's offer all this cool stuff, but then you can't deliver. So yeah, so that stuff will be coming later, and it's just about focusing on getting the quality right and not over promising. Because the bottom of the Tokyo60 is so basic in a sense, that's something that I'm really excited about, is to just do a ton of stupid iterations. I'll be visiting a sneaker sole manufacturer in Tokyo soon, so we'll see what we can do. Because it'd just be fun to do things that are slightly outrageous, I guess. So about the PCB, I had a lot of fun with this. In terms of feature set, I guess, yeah, it has the hot swap kill sockets. Actually has WS2812B RGB LEDs on the bottom. I got to swing by the Input Club, their crazy hacker lab in San Jose when I was at the NorCal meetup, and got to see the K-type PCB for a bit, and got to see the hot swap sockets in person. And they're just a fantastic piece of hardware. I've used the hole tight sockets, and those are terrible. And this, it's SMD'd, right? You can pop a switch right in, and I think it makes what we're doing here as a community just so much more accessible to so many more people. Am I trying to get rid of soldering? Not really. I solder a lot. I still really believe in it. For the Tokyo60, it's meant to get what we care about as mechanical keyboard enthusiasts into more people's hands. And I think this is sort of the best way to let people play around with different switches, and not have to spend a few $100 on getting the right soldering iron and solder wick or sucker, whatever. It's pretty limited option set on purpose. It's designed for cherry MX switches in this one HHKP layout, and because of how little variance there is, I think it was just a good fit with the Kale sockets. So all the switches now have the LEDs south facing, so there shouldn't be any issues with contact on R3GMK or just other artisans and that kind of stuff. The two switches that are flipped are the two that are directly on top of the USB port, because there's just not enough space for the USB port plus the KL switches. I decided to have a lot of fun with screen printing, so you've probably seen on the image that I just have large black and white stripes running across of it. And what I realized is that there's this huge opportunity to sort of treat these PCBs like kind of like a t-shirt. For this, it's like, well, how can I take this all the way and start doing something really graphic? It's something I'd like to explore more in the future, because if you look at a PCB, that you actually get, was it like a 3-color printing process, You have the bare copper, which is shiny. You have the solder mask, which is green, blue, red, white, black, and then you have your silk screen on top, which can be white or black, right? And through a combination, you can actually start doing like multi, color designs. I think I first tried this with the TGR Jane, the 910, the one that was for the Tokyo Meetup edition, where I put the tiny Tokyo Meetup logo on there, but it was in like white, black, and copper. It's like, okay, well, hey, what more can we do with this kind of stuff and just having more fun? I don't see anything being really different. There can be some really small fixes, like the USB port is going to be tweaked a little bit to be just a little more symmetrical around the cutout, and there's PCB, screw-in supports. So the PCB screws into the bottom of the the plate and top case. So I had that spec'd at 4.5 millimeters. Turns out, a good 5 millimeters is probably better. So just really, really tiny functional changes to make it better, but overall in terms of the shape, dimensions, angles, that's all staying the same. It's my first time ever doing this, and the scariest thing was after I had my design, reaching out to these factories and going, hey, I don't really have a company yet. I just have can I get a quote? And it's surprising how many companies were like, yeah, sure. It's going to cost roughly this much. If you send over designs, we can give you a better quote of how that's going to work. A bunch of emails to about 10 different companies. Got a response from 4 of them. And from that set, I picked the one that I thought had the right price range and the right, reputation. And then, just picked up from there. We connected on WeChat and just back and forth, and it's surprisingly streamlined. So the factory that I collabed with in China for my prototypes, they're this fantastic tiny little, I don't know, they're tiny. They have a lot of machines, but they're way out in Shenzhen, and they make a ton of really fun stuff. They have done a few other keyboards before. It's one of the reasons why I decided to work with them, because they know what they're doing. But I got there in the showroom and I'm looking at their stuff. They're making smart watches, really small intricate stuff, graphics cards. But they also made stuff like they made lightsabers, and I thought you just geek out, right? I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my god, and it was like, okay, just guys, drop everything. You guys make lightsabers? They're doing really small things like smart watch cases. They had some say graphic cards, enclosures and stuff. Really intricate machining, and then stupid stuff like keyboards and lightsabers. That before this, I thought, oh man, making something like a keyboard or a piece of hardware is so far away, right? It's a very distant kind of goal. And then you sort of go through this workflow and you realize that it's really not. If you can bring something value that they think is going to sell, they're very happy to work with you. And so I think getting started isn't the issue. It's just making sure that you get what you want at the right quality. So I think for China, it's so important to just be extremely specific and extremely detailed about what you need, and leave nothing up to chance. I think it kicked off officially at the NorCal meetup. I got to meet Yambo there and sit down with him and chat for a little bit, and from there I got to go swing by the office and meet the team and see who they are. And I guess that's what got it started, and then getting to know those guys, sort of realizing that they're actually kind of cool people who are, how do I frame this? Pretty damn nerdy about what they're doing. The people who own each vertical actually kind of really use their own products. And you really do get the sense that, yes, while they're, they have pressure to grow and be a large, scaled company, that the people handling the sort of Massdrop made collaborative stuff, I guess the whole reason why they're brought in is because they understand the communities, because they actually use the products themselves,
It's nice to hear.
It is. It's surprising, because, you'd think it'd be a lot of kind of salesy feeling kind of guys, but like Yambo, he's pretty grounded, and yeah, dude, he just likes keyboards. I've been very fortunate because I think Yambo is actually the person who owns the whole custom keyboard department, right? It's only him. And I think he's really taken a leap of faith with Tokyo60 and I guess me by extension. And saying, hey, this is what we price it at. We believe this product can do pretty well. So I figured at some sort of reasonable MOQ, like it would cost a little over 200. Yeah, it's cool because they haven't sacrificed any bit of the quality. So the Tokyo60 and M10B are actually going to be made in the same factory, and that's fantastic. And we get to really push for high quality, high finish, and they can do it because they have the bargaining power. I don't have a supply chain set up to pack and ship. I don't have I can't fill that many orders on myself. It's kind of hard for me to take money, especially being out here in Japan. Working with someone Massdrop, you can bring your vision to so many more people. Especially when the partner believes in what you're doing and sort of understands what the quality is. Instead of being a compromise or a barrier, they're a multiplier. They can help amplify what you do by so much more and still keep the core of what it is. They feel like the right partner for this kind of product. It's cool, because you're like, people are actually joining this drop and really believing in this product. I guess fundamentally it's like, hey, people trust me and what I'm doing enough to sort of, take this leap of faith with me, right? Yeah, yeah, just grateful. Is it going to ship? Is it going to ship on time? So the drop date is way far away, right? It's August 2018. I think how that works is that is a buffered time. So I think that's sort of like worst case. This is definitely what we'll hit. Massdrop's being pretty smart on this because they've gone through this whole debacle a few times, and they sort of know, hey guys, if we miss the ship date, people get pretty pissed about this stuff. So hopefully it's far enough away where that's okay, and because it's already being prototyped, with my set, and they have their own set, that all the manufacturing issues are already cleared. So it's more, I guess if anything, it would just be if there's a freak disaster or something, I don't know, but hopefully everything's pretty straightforward at this point. I don't know about giving up, but there's definitely a point where I got a little overwhelmed, because there's, Tokyo Keyboard really is just me. And when you start getting a lot of questions, a lot of stuff happening, and you're like, oh man, there's, I guess, a lot of people expectations placed on you. There's a point where I didn't even browse on RMK because I'm so nervous. I don't want to see what's happening. Yeah. Because there's a point where it goes from, hey man, this is kind of a hobby, I can just do it at my own pace, to oh no, this is happening, and I'm responsible for more than just myself. There are people who want a good product, people who just have questions. There's, I guess, a partner who needs stuff. And it's oh my gosh, it's real. Hang on. Future plans. So there's a few more designs in the pipeline. Obviously a few more variations of the Tokyo60 in terms of colors and I guess base options. I still very much want to do a ortho version. I'm a huge ortho geek, so I kind of want to do an ortho type of board. Whether that's, we'll figure out the size. What I really want to do is to use Tokyo60 as a platform to bring more sort of different mechanical keyboard culture goods out. If there's some way to work with local artisans to feature more designs and ideas that are coming out from Tokyo and Japan. I think right now us as a community, we're quite underrepresented you know, and there's a lot of good stuff happening here. So is there a way for this to help, break more stuff out? I really hope sort of Tokyo Keyboard as a whole is more than just, the actual keyboard, and sort of represent the stuff that we care about. What do we think is cool? What do we think is awesome? What stuff do we want to make? So I guess in terms of pipeline and vision, it's nothing concrete at the moment, but more of a compass of sort of hopefully where I'd like to take things. Well, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to chat. Thank you.